I'm going to be talking about what I have learnt about technologies from constructing the whole opening sequence. So the first piece of software technology I used was Premiere Elements. Now this was the main piece of technology, as we used it for editing and we used it to add on titles and sound, and it at first, when I was doing the prelim task, because I edited all the prelim tasks, I found it quite difficult to use, especially because the computer I was using was quite slow. But then when it came to the actual prelim task, it was a lot easier, as I had experience from the prelim task and I knew where to find everything. And lining everything up was easy, adding on layers, overlays, adding in the titles was easy enough, and everything turned out as wanted on the editing side. So that was good. The second piece of technology was After Effects. I didn't use this a lot. I only used it to attempt to put titles on, as we wanted to do 3D tracking titles, but our cuts were too short, so we couldn't use it. So it wouldn't put them on, as our cuts were too short for the titles to go onto, so you could see the motion tracking, so we just put the titles on with Premiere Elements. And then there was Photoshop. I only used Photoshop once, which was to make a movie poster, and at first it was hard to find where the shapes were because I had no idea, and I asked other people and they couldn't find it. I ended up finding it so I could put the stars on to give it a rating, and then I also used the same font that I used in the actual titles for our opening and added them on top. And then this is the film poster I made here. And then GarageBand. I found GarageBand very easy to use, as I have used it before it came to media, as I did GCSE music, and I was able to do the loops very easily and construct a piece very easily. The only problem was that I made my music on the MacBook and I wanted to put it onto the iMac, but I couldn't because the MacBook GarageBand software wasn't a new software, it was one of the old ones, so I had to continue using it on the MacBook and export it on the MacBook and then put it onto the iMac, which would cause some trouble, but I would manage to do it fine. And after GarageBand, the other pieces of technology were camera and tripod. Well, camera we just used to film, and we used a Canon camera, which was very good quality, so that came in use. And then tripods, easy to use, just put the camera on top, and you can use it for panning, tilting, and you can choose the height, so that was very useful. And the next piece of technology was YouTube, which I used to upload videos, and I also used to add in annotations for my evaluation. And adding in the annotations were very easy. I was going to watch a video on how to do it, but I managed to pick it up fine straight away. So yeah, and here's a picture of me doing the annotations. And then iMacs and the MacBooks. I don't normally use iMacs and MacBooks. I use desktop computers, normal desktop Windows, and so it was hard to use MacBooks and iMacs, and especially because the ones in school were quite slow, so you had to have a lot of patience, and one of the iMacs kept on closing down Premiere Elements, so we had to make sure to save our work every time, and if we didn't, we lost it. So that was kind of annoying. And then second to last was MuseScore, which I used to compose the lullaby for our thriller opening, for right at the beginning of it, where you see the scenery shots. So this was very easy to use, as I've already used music writing software called Sibelius, which is very similar, but this is, I would say, a bit harder to use, but I still was able to do it, and was very easy because all I had to do was write in the music how I wanted it. So first I played it on piano, then wrote it in here, so I could export the version from the music software so it would sound more professional. So that was very easy. And then the last piece of technology I used was VideoPad Video Editor, which is the editor I have at home. It isn't as good as Premiere Elements, but it comes close to what I can get for free at home. And it was very useful for when it came to doing screencastify, because when I did screencastify, it turned out very long, so I had to edit out some of the stuff. So we only had certain parts that we reused, and so that was that. But one problem was that the exporting time for this takes a long time. So I had to wait maybe an hour for the screencast to export, which was very long, but it turned out fine. And then also with VideoPad Video Editor, I made the ident, which turned out pretty good, I think, for the amount of time I made it in. Yeah, as I had to make one quickly as we didn't have one. Yeah, so VideoPad Editor was good for at home, and I also edited my practice ones on it. And yeah, that's it. So all the technologies I used were Premiere Elements, After Effects, Photoshop, GarageBand, YouTube, Camera and Tripod, iMacs and MacBooks, MuseScore, and VideoPad Video Editor. That's it. I think I learned how to use a lot more technologies since I started the year, as I'd never used a lot of them before, like Premiere Elements and After Effects, and I hadn't really had experience using iMacs and MacBooks and VideoPad Editor, like editing softwares, and like adding annotations on YouTube and uploading. I hadn't done that before. The only things I had done was GarageBand and Photoshop, but Photoshop a few years ago during IT lessons. But I think I learned how to use a lot more technologies than I did at first. So that's what I've learned about technologies from the process of making this video.